at Albright included some highs and some lows. For me, after a very poor sophomore year, I had settled in and was now sure that the future would be Dale teaching high school history and coaching basketball, and Nicki would be by his side teaching French and cooking great French cuisine. So through my junior and senior year, my academic life was a high, and upon graduation, I received the senior award as the athlete with the highest grade point average. Brag, brag. Nicki, with her French background, was the best French speaker in the French department, maybe better than her professors, and was doing well in all her studies. For her, this was also a high because she had given up her pursuit to be a nurse, which she had decided she really didn't want to do, or she really didn't want to be. Let me digress to a few anecdotal moments. One happy day during my junior year, I was in the hallway of our academic center, speaking with my advisor, one of the department's demanding teachers, but a very effective one. Nicki rushed up and, jumping for joy, exclaimed, "Dale, I got my history class changed. I don't have that impossible course now." End of quote. Well, the impossible course was taught by the professor I was talking to. I was speechless. I excused myself from my advisor and led Nicki away, a definite low. I should add that when I returned to the faculty, this professor became one of my closest friends and continued advising me in so many ways. And he was always kind and friendly to Nicki. I don't know if he didn't hear what Nicki was exclaiming or he didn't mind being associated with an impossible course. Maybe he was just a forgiving soul. I never asked. Let me turn to a few moments of my sports history at Albright. It's going to be another brag time, so you may want to page through it. I didn't realize I was capable of so much bragging. I guess it's because it's been stored away for so long. Well, when I was a freshman, over 30 players showed up for baseball tryouts. After a week, only 16 players remained. The coach took me aside and said, quote, "We have only 15 uniforms, and I have you as number 16 on the playing list. But I want you to stay with the team, practice, travel to the away games, and help me with different details. I'll have you keep the scorebook for now, but before the season is over, you'll have a uniform." Well, I was okay with that, and the season began. Our third baseman was a senior who had not played for 2 years because of academic demands, and he was struggling. After 4 games, the coach suggested he spend his last month at Albright doing something else besides baseball. He left the team, and I got his uniform. I started the next game at third, and the first at-bat, I hit the ball over the left fielder's head, no fence at F&M, and circled the bases. The Reading Eagle made a big thing of the moment. Headline, "Scorekeeper homers, Albright kills F&M." No more scorekeeping for me. I started every game over the next 3.5 years, switching to left field after my freshman year. It was a definite high and another brag. Jumping through the years, I came to my senior year playing at Moravian College. A word about the Moravian baseball diamond at that time. It was a field at the base of the football field. Left field was only 30 feet down the foul line to a large bank that led to the bottom of the fence that surrounded the football field. Dead center was 350 feet from home plate. The bank and fence presented a 30-foot barrier that may have been easy to reach but difficult to clear. I had my best day ever on the baseball field. 2 shots over the barrier in left and a home run to dead center, and a line drive double to right center. Jim Honachek, a longtime Major League umpire, umpired our game that day. Those days, many Major League umpires didn't go to spring training. They stayed north and earned in college games. Honachek was a family friend of one of my teammates. They were from the same town in the Pennsylvania coal region. They spoke after the game. The next week, my teammate told me Honachek said I was the best hitter he had seen in the 10 college games he had worked. Brag, brag. I'll end this baseball discussion by telling you that the Pittsburgh Pirates offered me a minor league contract. Many teams did this to fill up their minor league roster, so it was only a, quote, semi-honor. I didn't seriously consider it, since I was sure I wasn't going to make the majors. A laughable candy arm, for example. Also, I didn't think this would be any kind of life for my beloved. She might decide one of those other pursuers was a better choice. Only a little bragging here, I guess. The last comment I will make on my Albright sports career concerns my time in the gym playing with the bouncing basketball. I always felt that high school basketball was easy. I didn't feel overmatched until the third round of the state playoffs, when we ran into teams both my junior and senior years, that outsized us at every position by 1 to 5 inches. In both those games, we were finished before we began. By contrast, college basketball was always difficult. The competition on the team and against other teams was a constant pressure. Each year at Albright presented a different challenge. Freshman year was the easiest. Our freshman team had a winning record, and I was second high scorer. But sophomore year was a disaster. I spent over half the season watching the action, first with a serious ankle injury, and then with a bout of mononucleosis. When I returned, I did join George Conrad, Albright's career high scorer at the time, in a shared 50-point game. The truth is, he had 47 and I had 3. Junior year, we had a new coach and things seemed brighter. But the season began and I was a bench warmer. The 5th game, we were losing to Bucknell. The coach put me in and I had 4 shots and made them all. The next game, I started. For 10 games, I was the starter. I felt I was doing what was asked of me. We had 3 Hall of Fame starters, and our 4th was my great friend Jim Foreman, who just missed scoring a career 1,000 points. As the 5th man, I was not expected to be a major offensive threat. Play tough defense, don't make dumb mistakes, and give the ball to the hot hand. I felt I was doing that and had some good games. Here comes the bragging. Seton Hall, sorry, Tatum, and St. Joe's were my best. Against St. Joe's in what was the Eastern Pennsylvania basketball palace, the Palestra in Philadelphia, I had 13 points and 13 rebounds. We lost to them 83-81 when their big 6'10" center knocked me down and dunked the ball at the buzzer. Only the St. Joe fans agreed with the call. Our 10 fans moaned and groaned to no avail. I continued to play for the rest of the season, but was often watching, not playing. No reason ever offered by the coach. Oh, well, it's only a game, nothing to brag about here. In my final year, Coach Rankin called me aside when the season was about to begin and told me he was going to use me as a 6th man. He planned to start a young team to give them experience. Quote, but, he said, you will be playing a great deal, particularly when the game is on the line. He was true to his word. I finished each of the first 4 games and scored the final points in a 53-51 win over Lehigh. Then in the 5th game, my seemingly snake-bitten basketball career came to an end. Entering the game early in the first half, I had my best 5-minute stretch of basketball at Albright, scoring 9 points in less than 5 minutes. Brag, brag. Then as I stole a pass and was racing down the court, An opponent apparently tripped and fell into the back of my legs. His shoulder ended up between my thigh and calf, and my knee was torn up. I had 2 torn lateral ligaments and a shredded ACL. My basketball days at Albright were over. I tried to play 6 weeks later, but had little mobility and no confidence. No NBA scout came knocking on my door. Popular song of the 50s was entitled Moments to Remember. So I'll end these Albright years with a few moments to remember. I guess the most memorable would be the events of the Albright Homecoming 1957. First, though only a sophomore, the Baltimore Beauty was selected homecoming queen and crowned at the homecoming dance, the Ivy Ball, by Miss Pennsylvania. In my humble opinion, Miss Homecoming was more beautiful than Miss Pennsylvania. A second event of homecoming was the halftime float parade. In those days, there was great effort put into planning and creating the floats by all the Greek organizations. I suggested we APOs produce the facsimile of a sports trophy, a golden body standing on a frame structure, and a plaque that says, "A tribute to Albright athletes." The brothers agreed, and we borrowed a flatbed truck from an APO alum. We built a frame with wood and chicken wire, which would then hold brown crepe paper stuffed into it, surrounded it with borrowed shrubs, and found a way to spray water above the trophy as it would roll by the grandstand. Now we needed a golden body to top off the trophy. I resisted being the one, but I was outvoted. So homecoming Saturday, wearing only tighty whities, I was smeared with gold theatrical paint, head to foot, and drawn to the football stadium and driven to the football stadium. Climbing on the trophy with a flaming torch, which was a peach can covered in gold, holding a kerosene-stoked roll of burning toilet paper, I circled the field in my chariot. As we passed in front of the grandstand, 3 little boys exclaimed, quote, "It's alive, I saw it blink." I gave them a little hand wave as we rolled out of the field. I rushed into the locker room shower, washing away the gold, and then realized I had run by the big mirror and never looked at my golden body. Well, with no time to ponder this oversight, I quickly dressed because the float winners were going to be announced. And the brothers said, quote, "When, not if, when we win, you receive the trophy. It was your idea." Well, we did win, and guess who presented the trophy? The Queen, of course. As she handed it to me, I whispered to her, "Are you going to kiss me?" I was beginning to like this kissing stuff. Not in front of all these people. Now she was being the shy one. At this point, I would like to include some comments from the public record. In this case, 2 entries from the Albright student newspaper, the Albrightian. First, a report when Nicki was crowned, and second, a statement from a friend and colleague when I retired from teaching. Here, Archie is doing the bragging for me. The first one, headline, Nicole Donnet crowned homecoming queen. Nicole Donnet, in 1959 class, was crowned homecoming queen at ceremonies climaxing the annual ball last night. The queen was crowned by Mrs. Arthur Dunlap, the former Pam Ulrich Miss Pennsylvania of 1955. Miss Donnet will reign today and tomorrow over the traditional homecoming activities. And there's a nice picture of Nicki here, which eventually I'll work into the script, I think. And then secondly, the note included in the Albrightian when I retired by my friend Archie Parent. It's entitled Dale Yoder, quote, Golden Youth. This is Archie speaking now. When I first came to Albright as a young man, someone showed me a photograph of homecoming of the god Apollo with his laurel wreath, his golden body, and his chariot coming down 13th Street. This was Dale Yoder in the 50s. Ever since then, I have called him Golden Youth. I'm sure the name became tiresome after a while, especially as one decade followed another. The century ended and we were all dumped into a post-historical epoch. But for me, there was in Dale Yoder the uncanny incarnation of the god of culture, the arts, mathematics, truth, light, and intelligence, not to mention Apollo's gift to ancient boxers of endurance, adroitness, and sure-footedness, who combined the physical foundations of higher education with the liberal arts, the gymnasium with the lyceum, better than Dale. At times, for brief moments, it would please the gods to abandon his mortal favorite, during which time Dale might stumble or fall. But for the most part, the gods chose to abide and abides in him still, in that harmony and light that allowed Dale to achieve the ancient ideal of education for which we less visited ones must still contend. Thank you, Archie. The happy days continued. We had regular Saturday night dances in the fraternity rec room. Nicki was a wonderful dancer, and we would join others after a Saturday night football game or basketball game. She complimented me regularly on my dancing. I was hardly secretariat, but I was no longer a plow-horse. Oh, the thrill of young love. Of course, we weren't at Albright to improve our dancing styles, and the academics were going well. We had our favorite professors, all are now deceased, but we had a few that didn't score very high in our student estimation. I had already begun my attempts at humor through poetry, and I remember some of the lines I wrote. One was about an education prof who was a one-year wonder, moving on after a short stay at our beloved school. I wrote, "In Education 7, we are learning how to teach, but the theories in the textbook our professor cannot reach." Then there are a few forgotten verses, and I concluded, "As I conclude my poem, must I go out on the limb? No, simply stated, we will all be good teachers if we do the opposite of him." And another of the pit profs, a tall, thin, boring lecturer, who asked me 1 hour after one class had ended if I had just returned from military service, and he hoped I would be coming back to college. Question mark, question mark. I guess I didn't make up much of an impression on him. Slim was the student nickname for him, and my concluding verse on his poem went like this. Slim's class was smiling happily. He thought, "I'm doing well." But Slim was wrong as usual. It was now time for the bell. I guess every academic moment was not first rate, but I was happy with Albright's education then and now. I think I've included enough moments to remember, so I'll conclude this part of the family history on my early life by sharing some of the social rules and acts that were common in college life of the 1950s. Dress code. Evening meals in the dining hall. Men must wear coats and ties. Women must wear dresses. Classroom. Women must wear dresses, no shorts for the men. Drinking alcohol. Totally forbidden. Get caught and you go home to work on the farm. Rules for women were totally unfair. Men had no limits on their time. Stay out as long as you wished. Women had to be in their rooms at 7 o'clock. They then had 1 hour before 7 and 11 when they could go for a walk or go to the campus center for a Coke or coffee. Saturdays, women could stay out till midnight and had 2 2 o'clock deadlines per semester, supposedly for special events like fraternity dinner dances. It was a different time, and though the controls are onerous by today's standards, I don't recall any major complaints being launched. They did come later, during the 1960s, when most of these controls were abolished. Our fraternity got caught breaking a major rule in the spring of 1957, my last semester as an Albright student. An off-campus, unofficial drinking party had resulted in some damage to the site, and the owner reported it to the Albright administration. As a consequence, the APOs were placed on social probation. What sadness. This meant no spring highlight, the annual fraternity dinner dance. And in this year, it was to be held at the Reading Country Club, the site of past professional golf tournaments with Brian Nelson as the one-time head professional. It was a very glum time, especially for the APO seniors. What a way to end our college life. But Dale came up with an idea. Maybe we could use the remodeled Pearl Buck Barn as a dance hall and have our dinner at Trainer's Restaurant, the high-end dining site in our community. The brothers were behind the idea. I called my parents, and as always, they came through. They were happy to help and quickly got approval from Pearl Buck. Now I had to deal with Albright. I made an appointment with the president and told him my plans to have an engagement party at the Pearl Buck estate. Some of Nicki's girlfriends will be there with their non-APO boyfriends, so this really isn't a fraternity function. The president agreed, and our plans were made. A large room at Trainers was reserved. The female dates were distributed throughout the community for overnight accommodations after the dance. Men would sleep in sleeping bags spread throughout Welcome House's 7 bedrooms, and Ed's Diner in Doylestown was alerted for an invasion of breakfast seekers Saturday morning. Dinner and dance were always a Friday night occasion. My parents had done it once more, even springing for the breakfast bill at Ed's, an unbelievably generous gesture considering money was always tight in the Welcome House years. The dance night was special and magical. About an hour into the music, which were just records, I asked Nicki to go outside with me. There on the no longer used or needed barn bridge, we sat on a stone wall, and the shy boy began to play. Oh, I forgot. I'm going to put about this being within sight of where Garrett will be married. I can't imagine this is a quote, I can't imagine being away from you for the next 2 years. Can't we be like so many of my frat brothers and get married this summer? You can finish your college days at Moravian. Since I had signed a contract to teach and coach at Palisades High School, just south of Bethlehem, Moravian seemed like a viable option for Nicki. She smiled and said that was exactly what she wished for. We hugged and kissed and returned to the dance. All eyes were on us, but our smiles and happiness made it clear that no words were needed to share our decision. I had just experienced one of the happiest moments of my life. Our, quote, engagement party ended the next morning. After long goodbyes, we made our way back to Reading. Mother and Dad had once more proven how to live life for others. Oh, if the world were only filled with people like they were. Graduation happened, and my Albright days were over. Those years rushed by, especially after Nicki entered my life. Now it was back to Welcome House to get ready for teaching and our wedding. Nicki's parents had agreed to support our marriage, but they both wanted her to complete her college. That was fine with us. Now I'm going to tell you something that may shock you, but you must promise to read the entire paragraph. Nicki and I lived together during the summer before our wedding. Unbelievable, you say. Well, I must tell you, it was that welcome house with 11 brothers and sisters as chaperones and a mother who never went to bed before we did. Nicki slept on the second floor in a twin bed with Sumi. I slept on the third floor. So there was no scandal truly unfolding. Sorry. Nicki's mother was in Europe for the summer, so my mother stepped in. Plans were made. I sort of said yes to whatever Nicki wanted. I think I saw a trend developing. But the truth is, I was working for Cousin Sam drilling wells and playing softball, so I was happy to be on the outside of the planning decisions. Love was in the air, and that was my main concern. The mood of Nicki and me might best be shared by two of our favorite love songs of that era. Let me include them. Happily for you, I can no longer sing them. First one, when I fall in love, it will be forever, for I'll never fall in love till the moment I can feel that you feel that way too. That's when I'll fall in love with you. And also, my little angel needs no harp, no applause. When she sings, my little angel doesn't fly through the sky, has no wings. I heard tell that angels never leave the sky, but she must be an angel, there's heaven in her eye. And speaking of angels, I'll admit I'm a bit starry-eyed. For my little angel soon will walk down the aisle as my bride. And that day arrived, September 8, 1957, the happiest day of my life. To you, Nicole, I place my troth, to love you, to honor you, to walk with you for as long as we both shall live. The prettiest bride I've ever seen, said one of our friends. I emphatically agree. I end my thoughts on the early days of life with Nicki with a poem I wrote for her on her 60th birthday. It goes like this. Here is my song of love. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. Oops, I guess that's been done before. I'll need another phrase. Until the 12th of never, I'll still be loving you. While the thought is true, the fact remains. We've all heard that one, too. So I must be creative, and to all that seems quite hard, since you know my reputation as a long-winded, boring bard. Perhaps I should glean some memories from our long and wonderful past. Of course, I must be selective, since these good times are all so vast. An example, the day we met at an Albright dance, I was smitten through and through, but with tons of guys encircling you, I didn't know what to do. Cleverly, I conjured up my shy guy act, and it was as successful as can be, and the bumbling, blushing farm boy won the girl, as you can see. And from that day, I would never glance, not even at a perfect 10. For I feared the worst. You would take a walk, and what would I do then? So the die was cast, our future planned, and we were on our way. French major, history major, Albright fun. Graduation, Moravian, Lehigh, teaching, Fairview Avenue. Fell in a pond, Never Sink Mountain, basketball games, tennis, grown-up kids, fell in a pond. Weddings, grandkids, travel to Europe, great-grandkids, so many things to say. Yes, the years went by so slowly. Oops, I guess I goofed again. The truth, we know they whoop by. Since confession is good for the soul, I'll admit I once peaked at a perfect 10. Well, I hope there's been some fun with this. My words sometimes not quite true. But at close, I must be serious as I share this thought with you. So many good things have come my way. It's truly a wonderful life. Yet the magic of those past 60 years has happened only because you became my wife. everyone should be so lucky to find a little angel.